Hello, everyone. Dr. Mad here. Let's get mad about Macbeth. So let's have a look at Act 1, Scene 5. Very famous scene. And the summary is that Lady Macbeth receives a letter from Macbeth telling her everything that has happened. A messenger tells her that King Duncan is coming to visit. Macbeth now arrives and she tells him that Duncan must not see the next day. In other words, that they must kill him. Before we go through the scene, line by line, let's listen to it.
They met me in the day of success, and I have learned by the perfect's report they have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burnt in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with, Hail, King, that shalt be. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart, and farewell. Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. Thou'dst have, great Glamis, that which cries, thus thou must do if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do than wishest should be undone. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valour of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal. What is your tidings?
The king comes here tonight.
Art mad to say it. Is not thy master with him? Who, wert so, would have informed for preparation.
So please you, it is true. Our Thane is coming. One of my fellows had the speed of him, who almost dead for breath, had scarcely more than would make up his message.
Give him tending. He brings great news.
My lady.
The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse. Let no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts, and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief, come, thick night, and pour thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold.
My dearest love.
Great Glamis! Worthy Cawdor, greater than both, by the all-hail hereafter, thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in the instant.
Duncan comes here tonight.
And when goes hence?
Tomorrow, as he purposes.
Never shall sun that morrow see. Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. To beguile the time, look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under't. He that's coming must be provided for. And you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom.
We will speak further.
Only look up, clear. To alter favour ever is to fear. Leave all the rest to me.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that scene. So let's go through it. Act 1, Scene 5. Inverness, Macbeth's castle. Enter Lady Macbeth reading a letter. So this is the letter that Macbeth has sent her. And he's telling her everything that's happened. They met me in the day of success. So what he means there is that he's talking about the witches. They met him on the day of the battle when he won the battle. And he's saying that he knows that they know more than mortal knowledge. They have supernatural knowledge. So he's referring to the fact that they knew who he was and the fact that he had been promoted. But then he says that when I really wanted to question them, they disappeared. And as I was standing fully focused, letters came from the king and basically told me that I have been promoted to the Thane of Cawdor, so which, in other words, fulfilled the prophecy that the witches had made. And in addition to that, they had held him as king to be. And he's saying that I wanted to give you this news, my dearest partner of greatness. So one thing to notice is that Macbeth really loves his wife. So this relationship is quite strange in many, many ways. Both the relationship and the character. So Lady Macbeth is a very, very unusual character, very unusual woman for that time. And we'll look at the character of Lady Macbeth in much more detail as these lessons go on. And he wants her to be happy at this news. So up to that point, she's reading the letter. She now has finished reading the letter. So now she's kind of speaking to the audience. Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. So she said, well, you already were the Thane of Glamis, and now you are the Thane of Cawdor, and you will be king. But she says, yet do I fear thy nature. What she means by not that she's scared of his nature, she's worried that it is too full of the milk of human kindness. So this is just a metaphor, poetic language, Shakespeare's poetic language, that she's worried that he's too kind, he's too soft to catch the nearest way. So nearest way means the easiest way. So she's saying that she knows that he's full of ambition, but that maybe he hasn't got the the badness that goes with it, the ruthlessness that goes with it. I mean, we actually know that he does have these qualities. If we remember, if we think back to that first scene, but I mean, you might wonder actually here that does she actually know her husband as well as she should? We actually don't know much about their relationship. We don't know how long they've been married. From the look of it, it may be not that long, really, because they seem still to be in that kind of passionate love, and she doesn't really seem to know him that well. Anyway, so she seems to think that he hasn't quite got the nature to do what needs to be done. So we'll skip some of these lines. Remember what I said? Macbeth, any Shakespeare play is a long and complex thing, and people study them all the way up to A level and university. For GCSE, you just need to know the plot, the characters, the themes, and then just be able to pick out important quotes and analyze them. So if we jump to this line here, hie thee hither basically means come here. But notice these techniques going on, the alliteration, or should we say sibilance, the h sound. It's a very uh, sinister kind of sound. That I may pour my spirits in thine ear and chastise with the valor of my tongue. So this is a metaphor. She's saying that so that I can encourage you now, which is strange, isn't it? On the one hand, we've got Macbeth, who is this big, strong soldier general. So how is it that she's the one who has to give him spirit? You'd think it'd be the other way around. Now, chastise kind of means to tell off, but here I suppose it means that to strengthen with the bravery of her tongue or the strength of her tongue, her words, all that stopping you so that I can solve all the things that are stopping you from getting the golden round, which means the crown, okay? Which fate and supernatural means, right? Metaphysical aid means supernatural means, seem to suggest that you should have. And then the messenger enters and she says, what's the news? And the messenger says, the king comes here tonight. And she can't believe it. And she's saying, where's Macbeth? How come he's not with him? That he would have told her to be ready. The messenger says, sorry, madam, he is coming, I promise. And yeah, we don't need to worry about these lines. So anyway, just insist that Duncan is coming. So anyway, these various people, messengers who have arrived, she says, okay, go and look after them. Go and look after this chap who brought the news because he brings great news. And then this speech here is a very famous speech. And remember, Macbeth is a play. So when you write about the play, you should refer to it as such, but also think about stagecraft, which means how would it look on stage? Lighting, music, direction, how would the character. So for this scene, I can just imagine Lady Macbeth standing in the center of the stage, her hands held up to the sky, to the supernatural, right? And she says, the raven himself is hoarse. So raven is a black bird and it's has connotations of prophecy and so on. That croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan. So fatal means leading to death. So you can see from this line here, she has already decided that Duncan has to be killed. So Duncan is coming to her castle under my battlements, and now she calls on the spirits, on the supernatural. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here. So this phrase here is very, very famous. Kids usually laugh at it when they first hear it, but basically what she's saying is that turn me into a man. So remember, we're talking about the Jacobean era, like 400 years ago, and women were meant to be soft and cuddly or softer than men, certainly, which is why Lady Macbeth is a complete opposite of that. I mean, the truth is that we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, we're talking about in public that women were meant to be soft, but actually behind the scenes, inside the house, that may not be true. It's probably never been true in the house, but often even in cultures where women are supposed to be inferior, in the house they are often quite dominant. But anyway, certainly in public, women were meant to be soft. So the Jacobean audience, seeing this scene, seeing this woman, this actress, but this character on stage talking like this, would have been quite kind of shocked, yeah? And fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. So make me cruel, which in a way tells you that actually maybe she is a little bit soft, because if she's already hard and cruel, why would she need the spirits to make her more cruel? And similarly, make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse. So she's saying, prevent me from being remorseful, regretful, which kind of suggests that she does feel remorse, right? Otherwise, she wouldn't need the spirits to help her not feel remorse. That no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose. So again, compunctious is another word for regret. So she's saying, don't make me regret my fell purpose. Fell means bad. So this, obviously the murder, nor keep peace between the effect and it. So help me to make sure that nothing stops me and Macbeth from killing Duncan. Come to my woman's breast. Now, this is a strange thing, isn't it? Why would she say woman's breast? Why wouldn't she just say, come to my breasts? I mean, obviously, it's only women who have breasts. So the reason for that is, well, we don't really know why. You might want to have a think about that. A couple of possibilities are, you might want to stop the video and think for yourself here. But some possibilities are that Shakespeare is trying to emphasize her femininity. Or the other possibility is that Shakespeare just needs to make this line have 10 syllables. So in Shakespeare, when major characters are speaking and when they're making major speeches, he writes in blank verse, which means verse which has no rhyme. It doesn't rhyme, but it has a rhythm. Okay? And the rhythm is iambic pentameter. Don't worry too much about the iambic, but pentameter means 10 syllables per line. So pent means 5 from pentagon, maths, right? Meters is a metrical foot, okay? It's 2 syllables. So in short, it means 10 syllables per line. So maybe he just needed a word to make this into 10 syllables. And take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. So gall means poison. So she wants her milk to be turned into poison, which is incredible if you think about it. Milk, mother's milk, is life-giving. Babies, for the first few months, live on mother's milk. So this most life-giving thing, this most wonderful thing, she wants to turn it into poison. It's really, really unusual and powerful and incredible speech. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. So she's talking about the supernatural and the spirits, so we don't need to worry too much about that. Come, thick night, and pull thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. So she's calling on the night. Now, do you remember the technique I taught you in a previous video where you speak to an object or something that's not alive or somebody that's not present? So this is another example of apostrophe. So not the little punctuation mark, but apostrophe is also the name of the technique where you are speaking to something that's not human or somebody that's not there. Don't worry too much about that. If that's a bit tricky, that's a grade 7 plus technique. Anyway, so she's calling on the night to cover her in the thickest smoke of hell, and keen knife. So there's alliteration there, the n sound. Okay. So remember, alliteration is not the same letters, it's the same sound. So this keen knife, n sound, you can almost imagine the knife cutting through. And she doesn't want heaven to stop her. So she's totally gone over to the dark side. enter Macbeth. And then in the audio, it kind of they changed it a bit. He says this line here, but these are the original lines. Anyway, Lady Macbeth greets him, um, and she says, "Oh, your letters have transported me, have made me very happy that I can actually feel the future in the instant. I can feel the future in this moment as though it's already happened." Macbeth says, "My dearest love." So can you see how he always addresses her in very, very loving terms? Duncan comes here tonight. And when goes hence? When does he go from here? Macbeth says, tomorrow is his intention. And she says, another little important speech, oh, never shall sun that morrow see. Now, these lines are a bit confusing, actually, because what she really means is that Duncan won't see tomorrow, whereas here it would seem as though the sun won't see it. So this is Shakespeare. Sometimes Shakespeare wrote very quickly. He wrote at least one play per year, and sometimes two or three plays per year. So I mean, he was an amazing writer. His use of language is just almost supernatural in itself. But sometimes some of his lines don't make sense for that reason. Anyway, what she means is that Duncan should not see tomorrow. In other words, he has to be killed tonight. And then she says, "Your face is looking strange." Okay. So she's saying, don't worry too much about these lines here. Basically, she's just saying, don't let people know what you're thinking. You need to change your look and look a bit more innocent. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. So this reference to serpent happens quite a few times in the play. So obviously, serpent, this is referring to the Garden of Eden when it was the serpent who tempted Eve to eat the apple from the tree of knowledge. Okay. He that's coming must be provided for. So we need to look after Duncan on the surface. I mean, I guess this line could have a double meaning here. She might be saying he must be killed, but they have to look after Duncan and the guests until kind of deceive them until they can kill him. And actually, she says to him, leave everything to me. This night's great business into my dispatch. Leave it all to me. Okay, so don't worry about these last few lines here. Macbeth says, we'll speak further. In other words, let's talk about it later. And she says, look, don't worry about it. Just leave everything to me. Okay, so this is an absolutely critical scene. Lady Macbeth is introduced for the first time. And you can imagine back in the day, what an incredible impression she would have made. We've kind of got used to her because she's been studied for hundreds of years. But as an original character back then, she would have been quite amazing. Again, you don't need to worry about every single line. The main thing is just to remember the appearance of Lady Macbeth, these key quotes, the fact that she's already decided that Duncan has to be killed. She wants to be turned into a man. She wants her milk to be turned into poison. And then also this line here of pretending to be innocent, but and keeping your dark purposes underneath. Okay. So I've kind of given you some of the answers here, but have a look at these questions. And the answers are on the next slide. When you're ready, you should pause the video here and just make sure that you've thought about these questions and this scene. And I'm going to now move to the next slide. So there are the answers. Okay, if you weren't sure, then you need to go back and really revise this scene because it's a really critical scene.